appreciate John inviting me to be up here to speak with you, and I've spoken to some other real estate investor associations in Collinsville. So if you've heard the speech or my presentation before, it's different. So you're in for a different presentation tonight. So, all right. So I've probably been around since, like you said, 1987. 37 years. I'm the original founder, president of the company, but we're family owned. And go ahead, Amber. I'll take the slide for me. So this is myself and my wife a couple years ago. So Susan is my wife and CFO for the company. She's years of banking, accounting experience, thousands of satisfied clients, and we have A+ BBB ratings. We're very proud of that. I'm veteran. Air Force, Navy, is there any veterans in the room? Raise your hand. Appreciate your service, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you for your service. So it's Air Force and Navy. So Air Force, and then I got out, started this business, and then I decided, you know what, I love it. I want to stay in the military. So with the Navy, Air Force said I was too old, so the Navy Reserve said, we'll take you. So I got in the Navy Reserve for a few years. So I'm also a licensed public adjuster. Has anyone dealt with a public adjuster before for a claim? I know, Wilma, you have, yeah. I tell you what, it's very important, and you know, there's representation out there for you. I can't help you in Missouri as a legal PA, but I do have PAs I'll recommend, and I'll give you that name at the very end, of a gentleman I work with, and he helps a lot of our clients get the money they deserve. And we're family owned and operated. Like I said, we have family. My stepson works for us. We got my daughter-in-law works for us as well, and a lot of family. All right. So a public adjuster, sorry, let me talk about that. That's a great point, Amber. So when you have a claim, your insurance company will have an adjuster, right? That adjuster comes out. Who's that adjuster for? That comes out and meets you at your property. The insurance company, yes. So it'd be like if you had a driver rear-end you, and that driver that rear-ended you said, "I'm sorry, I hit you, but don't worry. My brother is a doctor. He's a chiropractor. He'll be able to take good care of you. And you know what? You're also in luck because another brother owns a auto body shop. He'll be able to look at your car and he'll tell you what's wrong and he'll give you an estimate to get it all taken care of." So that's not a great idea? No. So we'll talk more about that, but having public adjusters on your side, like Pride is on your side, public adjusters on your side too, they're gonna help you make sure you get the maximum amount of your claim, because 80% of all insurance claims, believe it or not, are underpaid. They're underpaid. So if you're doing it on your own, you're dealing with letting someone else control your destiny. Talk more about that. So there's been a lot of extreme weather events. Anyone notice that? Hail, storms, tornadoes. It's been crazy. You know, back in 2022, anybody remember, had a property in U City that flooded? It was horrible. We've had some in Granite City. They had 9 inches of rain, flooded 1,000 properties in Granite City. Rain comes down all at once. So that was the Pontoon Beach, Granite City. We did a lot of properties in that area too from 2019. So, you know, those extreme events can happen, and they will come back again. So what about tornadoes? See, every time you turn on the weather, you hear about tornadoes in Texas, Tennessee, Arkansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma, hailstorm, and a lot of hail. We've had baseball-sized hail. We've had softball-sized hail. I've even heard of a little bigger than that, orange-sized hail. This is crazy. And derecho. Has anyone heard of that word 10 years ago? Have we heard about it recently, haven't we? You know what that is? It's a straight line wind event. And they had that recently down in Texas and Houston. It went all the way from Houston all the way to the Space Coast of Florida. Straight line winds, 100+ miles an hour. And, you know, it just levels everything in its sight. So, or it can become more and more common. Extreme cold snaps. Does anyone have a problem with water pipes bursting last January? Their home or business? We did. We had a lot of clients that had problems too. The year before, Christmas Eve, I was out working all night, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, because all these buildings and pipes were bursting everywhere. All over the city, you had down to, I think, minus 25 or 30 degrees, the wind chill factor, it was crazy. So we got more cold, okay? So water claims have increased. Some other claims are going down, but water is going up. And insurance companies are getting smarter about this. They're raising deductibles up. They're changing some of the verbiage in the policies too. Be careful with that. But average water claim was $12,500 in 2022. Who wants to write a check for $12,500 out of their pocket? How do you budget for that? You didn't plan on that when you bought that property, did you? No, it wasn't part of the spreadsheet. When you, how much money am I going to take and how much am I going to spend? You can remodel it, fix it up. So water can be very expensive. Everything is more expensive. Wouldn't you agree? Okay. So any of you have water, storm, or fire damage in any of your properties last year? Show hands. We got about 5, 6 people out there. So the other ones, you didn't raise your hand, you may be raising your hand next year, or yet by the end of the year. Unfortunately, it happens. Things happen. I don't want to wish bad luck on anybody, believe me. I've had floods in my own house several times, so I wouldn't wish it on you, but it will happen. So hopefully tonight I'll give you some tips and suggestions, so if it does happen to you, you'll know how to handle it. And you know, the damage, it has to be remediated thoroughly. You got to get on it right away. One thing I want to stress too, if you do have an issue with water damage, you want to get pictures taken right away. Isn't the tendency you come home from work and you see water all over your floors and you panic and you start getting the chop back out and you start sucking all the water up, and then you go in the next room, you think you got what you saw, but then you realize you start walking on the carpet and you realize, oh no, the carpet's wet too in the bedroom. And then you realize, oh, it got into the bedroom closet too. But you start cleaning it all up. What's going to happen when you turn the insurance claim in and you've got no proof of what was wet sometimes, because it may take a while for them to get out there. So you get document, you get a phone out, take pictures, take videos, and get it all documented first thing before you touch it. If your house is on fire, of course, you don't take pictures. Get up the house and, you know, but if you have water damage, you can take pictures from outside, but grab what you can get out of the house. All right. And as you guys check your properties for lingering issues, one thing I would recommend, you always check your properties. Don't rely on your tenants. If you have tenants, renters, to tell you, hey, that toilet's been leaking for the last 6 months. They won't tell you about it till you go in there and they move out and you walk in there and you see what looks like mold all over the walls, all over the floors, unless they're calling you saying, hey, I'm going to the hospital, I'm sick now, because your toilet's been leaking for 6 months and never bothered to tell you. Or you sent a handyman in there and they said it wasn't that bad, but they didn't send you pictures of it, or they're going to clean up with bleach. I'll talk more about why you don't want to use that. But you got to make sure you keep an eye on your properties, okay? All right. So everyone, of course, I can talk about should take mold serious, because it is a serious thing. A water damage claim, a lot of small ones we can take care of for $3,000 or $4,000, but if you leave it and don't take care of it, then you're looking at $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 potentially, depending on how long it sits and how bad the problem is. So no one's immune. It can occur following any kind of unattended spills. People don't tell you about plumbing, or misdirected lawn sprinkler too can happen. Someone left the window open, and water gets in that way. So you can read the bottom here. Mold problems with all kinds of cleanup problems and repair bills. You always wanted to make sure you document, like I said, take care of it. Water is something I don't recommend you do yourself or have a handyman do. We use special moisture meters to detect and find out where all the water is, because water is one of those things that plays hide and seek. You might see the water on the floor that you think that's all it was, but you didn't realize it went underneath the cabinets. There's drywall behind the cabinets that's going to soak up that water. It's going to get underneath the laminate flooring. Just because you soaked it up doesn't mean it's all taken care of. So we go in there with meters and inspect it for you. And if any of you guys call me and say, hey, I have a problem, and I don't know if I should turn this in the insurance company or not, call me. I don't care if it's 10 o'clock at night. You want to call me, and we answer our phones live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Normally it's me on the phone. But I'll come out and look at it for you the next day for free and tell you what the problem is and something, give you an idea of what it would cost if you decide to hire us, okay? And that way you try and do it yourself and end up with a bigger problem. All right, go ahead. So you gotta make sure you have adequate insurance coverage. This is the big one that folks, that I see, a lot of people don't realize how much things cost. And when they call around to get insurance, they only ask, I'm calling to getting insurance, I'm looking for the cheapest price. Does anyone buy their insurance that way? I hope not, because if you're, everything, you get what you pay for, right? Does everyone agree with me? It goes with everything you deal with out there. But insurance is one of those things you gotta make sure, if they're telling you, if you had a policy, for instance, and you've had it for 20 years or whatever, 10 years, and someone comes along and says, hey, I can beat that coverage, make sure they're giving you apples for apples coverage for what you have. Because I've had people that we get to their house and they had water damage. They said, well, I know I'm covered because I've always been covered, but they switched last year. Someone came along and said, hey, I can save you $200 a year on your insurance, but they took out the water coverage. Of course they're gonna save money, but now they have a very expensive bill because they thought they were covered, because their insurance company agent just wanted the business and didn't give them adequate coverage. So you wanna really make sure you know what you've got on your policy and make sure it's more than enough, okay? And don't save money on insurance. Water backup, sump pump riders, anyone have crawl spaces, even a slab house should have water backup covered for like a sewer backup. If you have a basement, definitely get sewer backup coverage. We've had a lot of heavy rains in St. Louis, and this is coverage for $100 to $200 a year. It's inexpensive. But I'll tell you what, if I've had damages for $10,000 to $20,000 in people's homes and businesses, and they didn't have that rider, they didn't know they didn't even have it. So make sure you look at your policies. If you call me 6 months and say, hey, we got a problem and we're good, but well, you're not. So just review it, make sure you have it. And also, I'll tell you one thing real quick about backup, people don't realize, and they always say the wrong thing when they call the insurance company. Who knows that when you call, everything they tell you, that you hear this recording, your call is being recorded for quality assurance purposes. Is that really for quality assurance purposes? No. That's to get you to say the wrong thing. And they have a recording of it. So, I always tell people, before you call the insurance company, you call me, and I'll help you walk through the process. Tell me everything, facts of what happened, what you found, and what steps you've taken, and just make sure that call to the insurance company is accurate and correct. Because you can't go back and make another call back to them. People will call and say, tell them my basement flooded. And they say, well, where did the water come from? I don't know. It may have come in from seepage around the house. You think that's covered or not? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Or it came into the window well. Anyone have a property that had window water come to the window well? You get an 8-inch rain, water will come to the window well. If you have a window well to your basement, it will get in there. Okay, that's not covered. But what if you have a sump pump that's in the basement and you had sump pump coverage, but you forgot to mention that the sump pump quit working because the power went out, and that's why the water was coming in around the foundation. Now it's a covered loss. Okay, so I've had to go back and try to get the claim covered now, going from no coverage to $10,000 worth of coverage or more. So I can't stress enough, it's critical. Call me first. Don't feel like you have to call them right off the bat. Let's make sure we understand what you've got. I'll look at your deck page with you and make sure you understand what coverage you have, so you make sure you ask the right questions and make sure you're gonna be covered, okay? All right, and also it covers you for sudden water damage. Don't call them and say, hey, this thing's been leaking for 3 weeks and I just got around to getting it fixed and now I'm gonna turn a claim in. That will not be covered either. It's called a maintenance issue. So, but if you come home from vacation after being gone for 3 weeks, you walk in the front door and you notice it smells like water damage and mold and the water's pouring out, the toilet been running since you left vacation 3 weeks ago, that is a covered loss, okay? All right, so that would be covered. Even if it's been running for 3 weeks, you didn't know about it. You just came home and found it. All right, go ahead, Amber. Okay, so a leak is usually covered, like I said, but long-term leaks that have been neglected are not covered. So don't tell somebody it's been leaking for a long time. That is not covered. If your tenant didn't tell you it's been leaking for a long time, but you just went over and did an inspection or picked up the rent, and you walked in the door and you smell something musty or doesn't smell quite right, and they tell you, well, it's been leaking for a long time, but they didn't tell you about it, well, you just discovered it then. You didn't know it's been leaking, so not your neglect, it's your tenant's neglect for not telling you. Still should be covered, okay? So, pay your insurance, protect your building, don't be afraid to file a claim when it's necessary. So, if you file a claim, you want to find all the damage that was caused. A lot of people, like I said, do it themselves. A lot of do-it-yourselfers, that's great for some things. Water damage is not something I'd recommend being a do-it-yourselfer. The monthly claim doesn't normally affect your insurance costs. So, everybody know that your rates can go up whether you have a claim or not? Does anyone know the rates have gone up even though they didn't submit claims? It does, right? Because you know what? If you're in 63104 zip code and there was a big storm there last month or 6 months ago and everybody filed a claim, but you said, you know what? I'm lucky. I didn't have a claim. Everyone else flooded, but I didn't. You know, guess what? They're going to make that premium up somewhere. So they're going to raise your rate. So don't be afraid to turn a claim as legitimate. And if it's enough, you know, you got your deductibles, of course, but, you know, get an estimate of what it's going to cost. And also, an adjuster will only look for the obvious damage. That's why when you call and you want someone, the adjuster comes out, they're not going to be doing any digging and looking around and see if there's water underneath your floor, or they'll go up in the attic and see if there's any damage. If you don't report it and tell them it's damaged, they're not going to go looking for it. So again, you want a company like myself to be there with you to walk through it and make sure everything is pointed out to them, so nothing gets missed. All right. So if you have a water vent, of course, look for all the damages. Things should be cleaned up quickly, minimize damage. This is the front of the wall, and like I said, hide and seek. How about water that was behind the wall? The front of the wall looks fine, but we have meters to tell if there's a problem, and that you don't want that in your property there. What's behind that wall there? Be a problem. All right. So water can hide, of course, behind walls. And anyone seen a thermal imaging camera or heard of them? Okay, this is a jellyfish problem. Yeah, it kind of looks like it, doesn't it? This is a property actually I was staying at one time as a rental property, Airbnb, and I thought I was smelling some water damage and mold in the property, and put my camera out, and lo and behold, found it had a roof leak. And you can't tell by looking at the picture on the left there's any kind of water damage. So as I said, water can hide. It's very critical, and you can't just go by putting your hand on the wall and say, well, it feels dry. I don't feel any moisture in there. Must be okay. It's not, obviously. The blue you see and the purple, that's taking the temperature readings. It's 70.2 is what the blue is. The other surfaces are 74.7. So it'll take the temperature reading. Water is going to be cooler than dry. So when the things are wet, it'll be cooler, and you'll be able to see it through the thermal imaging camera. You can pick them up for a couple $100 online. It's a good investment to have, to buy them. You know, just do a Google search for little small thermal imaging cameras. I would recommend having it if you have property, because it'll give you an easy way to look at something if you had a storm or some kind of an event, to tell if you might have some problems. Okay. So again, this bathroom, it looks pretty good. It looks okay, because the toilet's missing. But a lot of times you'll have a toilet leak. People think, well, we just took care of the toilet, we got the floor taken care of, but what about that vanity? A lot of times they'll say, well, this vanity's got a little bit of water damage on the bottom of it, it's okay. It'll be fine. But, and let's see the camera there showing the moisture that's on the vanity. Go to the next one. Isn't Andrew doing a great job? Thank you. All right, so again, you see the drywall's wet here, and back behind the drywall and the flooring, you can see all the water damage there that was hiding. So you got to look for, there's obvious damage, and there's also unobvious damage that's hidden. That's why you want us. Untreated water damage, of course, can cause serious damage to your building and then your tenants. That's why you have to be careful. Okay. So how do you know if you have water damage? Well, of course, you might see any mold on the drywall, that would be obvious. See water standing on the floor, that's another obvious reason. But then you may notice a musty smell. So when you walk into a home, your property, if you're looking at buying something, and you walk in, the first thing that smacks you in the nose is a musty smell, like you smell you're just in grandma's basement. It's been damp for many years, you know that smell. So that's what you want to look for, that when you smell that, there's something hidden in that property. You may not see it obvious, but there's some moisture problem somewhere. You might look for stains on the ceiling, cracks or separation around the wood and around the window trims. Is another good indication there may be water damage could be coming in from around the windows. Or baseboards, the water damage on the floor in the basement. All right. So what should you do? You got large areas. You gotta call in a professional. So they recommend indoor air specialist or industrial hygienist to come in. They can do testing for you to determine if it's safe to breathe. Has any of you had tenants that they call you and say that they're getting sick and they want you to come take care of it and they've got mold problems? Anyone had that problem yet? We get calls all the time from tenants, all the time. I always tell them to go back to the landlord and talk to them. I won't go out and look at the property for a tenant unless the landlord is there with me and wants me out there to look at it. So we won't go out, but I get calls all the time. So, I don't know how you want to handle that, but if you do call me out there, I'll come out and look at it with you, and I'll only talk to you and tell you what I think and what should be done. But I've been on the end of court cases. I've been called as an expert witness. Landlords have been sued, and even if you win, you lose because of the fees you got to pay for attorneys to fight it. It can be a really ugly situation. So I would take mold very seriously. If you got a tenant, that's saying there's problems with water, to get it handled right. All right, go ahead. So do-it-yourselfers, hard surfaces, you can use a good commercial cleaning product. You don't want to, always dry the surface afterward. You don't want to spray something on it, like in a closet, let's say, and get a big bottle of big pump-up sprayer, and you're just got to soak it down with water and get it nice and wet. Okay, I think that'll take care of them all. The more water, the better. The more cleaning solution you put on, the better. And then you close the door up. And but guess what? Your problem just got bigger because all that moisture is going to be in that area. So you got to make sure you get it dry. And I did not recommend using bleach. I'll tell you why. So dangerous for children and pets, highly toxic. It remains on the surface. And actually, mold is actually what I call mold food. It's mostly water, bleach, unless you bought it when it came off the factory production. But if it's sitting on the shelf in the store, you know how long it's been sitting there? It actually it basically loses its power the longer it sits there. It could be there for 6 months when you bought it, and it's basically most of water. May have a little bit of bleach in it, but bleach does not work. It makes it mold look white, or it makes it invisible, but it's still there, okay? And there's also a lot of studies about children being exposed to it, plus you got animals. So there's a product that we use, it's called HOCl, which stands for hypochlorous acid. It electrolytes water and salt. And if you want more information about where to get it, let me know. But it's a very safe, it's used in our human bodies, it's used by our white blood cells, produce it to fight off infection and disease. But it's very good against mold, and it's safe. You can put it around anybody. If you got asthma, you can breathe it. My wife has asthma, I know. I use it around her all the time, and no issues. So if you want more information about that, let me know. That's a great product to use. And it's safe. Okay. What about asbestos? So asbestos been around for many, many years, hasn't it? So if you guys do your own renovations, or you guys hire, friends, contractors to do the work on it. Does anybody test before doing renovations? You don't have to admit, EPA is not here, no one's going to take you away, so you don't have to raise your hands on this, but it's something very important I want to talk about, because it's something I've seen people lose properties over. And because you can get by with it for many, many years, it never can happen, nothing can happen, but all it takes is once. Somebody comes around and finds somebody doing some work, and they ripping things out, nobody tested it. Ignorance is not a good excuse. You can't say, I didn't know. They don't care. EPA can fine you, and the fines are $10,000 or more. And then they'll be on your tail anytime you're dealing work on a property. But it can be found in many of these things, from vinyl flooring, patching compounds, paints, acoustical ceilings, tiles, pipe insulation. It's everywhere. It was used throughout, started around 1930, I believe. So, and you know what? You can actually go to some stores and still buy products that have asbestos material in it today. Yes. It's not produced in the United States, but products that are imported in from other countries do sometimes contain asbestos. So you really should test everything. There's a company called EMSL here in St. Louis. You can do your own sampling if you like. Just take a little piece of the flooring. If you're taking a vinyl tile, before you take it up, take it and get it tested. And you can get a little sampling to see what, and they'll run the test on. They'll run a test on not only the tile itself, but also on the mastic. So make sure you get the mastic up too. And if there's multiple layers, sometimes you'll see in these properties, they put layer on top of layer on top of layer. They didn't want to mess with it. So make sure you get all the layers when you're testing it. And I see a lot of it in vinyl flooring. And insulation, roofing, if you do any roofing, pipe insulation, if you walk down into older homes, you'll see it wrapped around these pipes. So, and you may or may not have to take it up, you can just cover it up. But if you have water damage and it's wet, and it's sitting on a wood subfloor, you have to deal with it. You can't just leave it, because then you end up with a mold problem. So, but there's good news about asbestos. That something came out in May, all right? Talk more about that. So, true or false question. Can I have my workers remove suspected materials as long as they are following proper methods? Anybody want to guess on that? You got two options. What do you think? True or false? I hear false. All right. Anybody think true? No trues? Question is, true or false? I can have my workers remove suspected asbestos materials as long as they are following the proper methods. Okay. So we'll go to the next one. It depends. It always depends, doesn't it? There's a little caveat here. Okay. So you're right. Now it depends. What does it depend on? Well, it depends on how much asbestos there is. 160 square feet. If you have a kitchen, 150 square feet or 160 square feet or less, and that's the only asbestos that you found, yes, your workers can do that. Okay, take it up, as long as they're following safe methods, of course. Keeping it wet and doing that work. If you find her 260 linear feet or 35 cubic feet, that can be done by yourself or by your employees. Okay. Now, of course, your employees should be aware that they're messing with asbestos. They should be proper mask and gloves and make sure they're not eating the stuff or anything too. Not sampling it. So, but that was as of May 7th, 2024. So that was something new. It used to be all had to be done by. So that's something new I want to help educate you about. So, but I do not recommend, tackling a lot of asbestos. You got to get some companies out there. There's a company called Crossroads Services. His name is Tom. If you look up or write down Crossroads Services, if you need a lot of asbestos work done, abatement done, he's very fair and reasonable. I'd recommend reaching out to him. I don't do it ourselves. We call him and let him handle it. Okay? Takes the liability off of you. All right, mold control. The key is moisture, fix leaky plumbing, leads from inside the building as soon as possible. And also watch for any condensation, wet spots. With air conditioning, a lot of people like to turn the air conditioning on. Now, it's not a good idea if you're going to be leaving your home for some time, or you got tenants that are going out of town and they want to turn the air off. It's actually very humid in that home, and that can cause a mold explosion as well. And you want to reduce any moisture you have in indoor air. Increase your ventilation. And anyone have any of these little, this is called an AccuRite, it's a little moisture humidity reader. You can pick these up at Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards, and it's good to have this in your basement. Keep it in any areas on your properties and keep an eye on your moisture. Anybody know what your relative humidity should be kept under in your home? Much less than 60. About 40, correct, Amber? Yeah, 40%. So that way you kind of keep an eye on it. So if you get around 60% over a longer period of time, you will start getting mold growing everywhere. Everywhere. So you want to keep your humidity under control. If you have a wet basement, a properly wet basement, keep a dehumidifier in there. Keep a meter, or keep one of these little gauges with you to know where you're at on your humidity levels and make sure you're keeping it down, okay? This one is an AccuRite. It is basically it's a humidity and moisture, a humidity and temperature reader, okay? They have a little battery on it, and they run forever. So you can get these I've seen them at Lowe's or Home Depot. This brand is AccuRite, but you want one that tells temperature and humidity. And it'll tell you if the indoor humidity is one that says 47% in here, which says is okay. That's still, it's close to 40, closer to 40 than 60. But it will tell you, what the low was and what the high was and the indoor temperature readings too. Okay? And they're about $20, $30 for those readers. Right? And then, so do-yourselfers, items made of fabric can be cleaned. So if you got clothing, can be cleaned sometimes, depending on if it's just a little surface mold that from humidity that could be cleaned or wiped down. But if it's really porous surfaces, check regularly, see if mold has returned, infiltrate those. If mold can find to reappear, you want to dispose of those items. You don't want to keep cleaning them if mold keeps coming back. Okay. One thing I forgot to mention here, I'm almost at the end here, but look around your properties and you see these cracks here? Can you guys see these? So look around your properties. If you're buying it or investing in a property or one you own currently, make sure you don't have some major issues here where wind-driven rain, if you get a strong storm, they can blow in moisture around your windows, your doors. Make sure you keep it freshly caulked. And you want to use a good elastomeric caulk, okay? Elastomeric caulk, okay, on your properties, and make sure you don't have any kind of gaps like that. Water will get in and find a way. And again, that's not a covered loss, water coming in from lack of maintenance, okay? All right, Amber? Also, heating, air conditioning, ventilation, drip fans. We do a lot of water damage from people who have attics, furnaces in their air conditioning units in their attic. The condensation lines do get clogged. So you want to make sure you check those condensation lines, make sure they don't have dirt and debris building up. Because when it does back up, then that pan will start filling up that's up there in that space, and guess what? Someone's going to call you and say, hey, we got water leaking through the ceiling, and they may not be home when it happens at first, and maybe several days before anybody notices. So you want to get that taken care of. Of course, get them inspected by your local HVAC guy. And also make sure your building foundations, you want to make sure you have gutters, good downspouts. Water flows away from your property. I've been at many properties that I've seen the downspouts weren't hooked up. The water was dumping right alongside the house, right along the foundation, and going right directly in the crawl space. And it's a simple hose. You can get extender hose, rubber, plastic to hook on that gutter, make sure on the downspout, make sure the water's flowing away. So when you get heavy rain, you're not going to have any water accumulating. Also, do a walk around your outside of your house and make sure if you're next to the foundation here, that this is not lower than over here, because all the water is going to run toward your foundation again. You want to build that up and have it slope away. If you got people above your property that are pumping their water down toward you, that's even more critical, because you're not dealing with just your water, you're dealing with their water too that's coming toward your place. So you want to get that gutters, downspouts, everything directed away from the foundation. All right, go ahead. So, can anybody see this? What this cartoon does? I'm gonna read it for you. For those in the back, you may not be able to see it. So this is this guy comes out here. There's the homeowner. And this is it says insurance company on the briefcase. And so the homeowners are saying, is that microscope to check for mold? And it says, no, it's to read the fine print in your policy. So that is true. As I said, go back to the policy thing for a minute, but that's very accurate. I see that happen way too many times. There's a lot of fine print. So when you think twice about signing a contract with your insurance company, preferred service provider, again, they kind of go back to the accident issue I told you about, when somebody rear-ends you, and you think it may be a good idea. Hey, this person behind me may know a good chiropractor. They may have a good auto body guy. But when you call the insurance company and you said, I want you to send it your service provider to my home or my property, guess what you're doing? You turned over all control and power to your insurance company. Is that a good idea? No. Who are they looking out for at that point? Themselves, correct. Even though I see these commercials on TV, they say, you're in good hands with Allstate. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, right? That's not always that's what you see on TV, that's what they want you to think, but that's not reality, okay? So you can decide who you want to work on that property, okay? You have full control over that, so don't let them tell you, hey, if you have XYZ come in here, I can't tell you we're gonna pay the bill. That's not true. They use scare tactics. Don't let them scare you, okay? All right. So again, you decide who works in your home or property. You own the property, right? And your insurance policy doesn't say, I need 3 estimates before you can do any work. That's not true either. You need to find somebody you trust and you like, who's got good credentials, is going to take care of you. That's what you need. All right? So you may want to think twice, of course. Well, we already covered that one, so go ahead. So we have the experience technology to find hidden water. We come out and we do a mapping of the whole property. We take pictures and document everything for you. So we handle it to make sure everything is recorded for the insurance company so they can properly pay the bill, which is very critical. We don't want you to be stuck with anything out of pocket any more than you have to be, because that's your deductible. And again, this is what we can do for you. Water damage, mold, fire. Or we've got 5 fire jobs we're doing right now for property owners. Remodeling, we also do reconstruction too. One thing I forgot to mention, I wanted to tell you guys about this, a real secret that a lot of you don't realize. So how many of you have renters that rent from you? A lot of you? Okay. Do you require them to have their own renter's insurance? Yes. Yes, everybody? Has anyone thought it's not a good idea, or it's not my problem? Hey, if they want their stuff to get ruined, that's on them. Anybody think about that? What, sir? And you look at it to make sure what they have? That's great. That's wonderful. You guys are a smart group. Also, make sure you can be listed, as an additional interest on that policy as well. So if they show you they got insurance today, they move in tomorrow, but what happens is they don't pay that premium the next month it comes around. They said, you know what, I'm not going to pay it, right? Yes, sir?
My tenant canceled it 3 times. That's where my deductible went up. You got your insurance. They didn't know I was getting notice every time it canceled.
Right, no, exactly, that's smart. Here's another way you could do it too. You can have the insurance company doesn't care who makes the premium payment. So let's say if your rent is $1,000 a month rent for that property. Now it's $1,025 a month. You make the premium payment. As long as they sign the policy over, they sign the application agreement, you can actually make that premium payment and make sure it gets paid. So that way they don't have a problem canceling. The other thing I've seen with properties too, that if tenants always careful with your property, they treat it like their own, right? 100%, right? Not exactly. So we've had a lot of issues with tenants that have fires. They have fires happen in the kitchen. They let their 8-year-old decide to cook chicken wings on the burner. Heat up a big old pot of oil on the stove. mom's in the room, or dad, or whoever, in the other room watching TV, and 8-year-olds in there cooking chicken wings with a big old pot of grease on the stove. And they throw these cold frozen wings in there. And before you know it, you got the kitchen's on fire, and they panic and they throw water on it. That's a good idea, right? You know, nope. Then you went from a small fire to raging fire. So is that tenant liable? Yes, they are liable. Do you know tenants also carry, or should, every policy does cover what's called liability insurance? You guys know that too? You know, you can go after them for your deductible and your out-of-pocket expenses. What about your other tenants that you're having to relocate now because this person was not responsible with your property and they did something that was neglectful? They can help offset some of that expenses. So that's why renter's insurance is so critical and so much you want to have it. You know, you're not paying for it unless you pay for it and then increase the rent, but whatever. But you want to make sure they have it. Don't ever say, we don't require it, or we don't care if you get it or not, because it's so important to make sure you get that rent payment. If they got insurance, you're still gonna get paid your rent, even though they're not living there now. They're gonna get a new place to live. They got renter's insurance, but make sure it's enough money in there. You know, I've seen people with $10,000 of coverage, and that's it. They paid like $10 or $20 a year or something. That's not nothing. So make sure they have enough to pay for them to move out. You can get renter's insurance for $150 a year. That's decent coverage, okay? All right. Sound like a plan? I hope you guys learned something tonight. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
We'll go back to the subclass.
Yes.
You have humidifiers in the basement,
Yes.
and it takes a month to get one cup of water. Would that be a gauge as to needs similar to your humidity meter?
I would get a humidity reader and put it down there. Yeah, so he wants to know, he has a dehumidifier down in his basement. He's only getting about a cup of water out. You said about a month. Okay, so 1 cup a month. That's not a lot of moisture in there. So every basement varies on how much humidity and moisture you have down in that basement. But you may not have to run that, but if we go through a wet period of time, you know, then it may increase. You may get a lot more moisture out of that. Depends on the basement. If it's an older home or a newer home, some of them will have more moisture, but I would get one of these little readers, keep it down there and see where you're at. You may not have to run it all the time, but it just depends on, and it may, the other thing too, if it's an older dehumidifier, it may not be working very well. A lot of the newer ones do have a setting on it that you can change. You can set it to 40-50% humidity, where when it gets down to that level, it'll kick on automatically. So it's an older DU, it may not have that technology. So a lot of the older ones just may not keep up. So it depends on your dehumidifier you have in your basement, but it's good to have one down there just to keep your humidity under control. Yes. Any other questions? And my number, you guys have my phone number, business cards. I'm gonna have a stack of them over here. I know you got another great presentation coming up. And I've got some giveaways I'm giving away. Just awful disclosure that my wife and I own another business called Adventures of Intrigue. It's like an escape room. It's a whole lot of fun for families, couples, bringing your kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews. It's over near STLREIA by Johnny Brock's. But if you guys give us your business cards in this little bag here, or write on a piece of paper with your name, phone number, and email, we're gonna do some drawings for two different passes of 2 for Adventures of Intrigue for you guys to come and check it out and have fun. Okay? So we have some, everybody put something in that wanted to put something in for this? Okay, there's some. Okay. We're brand new, we just started 2 months ago. This is really a dream of ours, so we want to get back to the community and get people together and get kids off their phones and spending more family time together, so it's pretty cool. And I talked to Tyrone. We have a nonprofit, so we also work with a lot of nonprofit agencies to help raise money. So if you have a nonprofit, let me know. All All right, so we're gonna get a few more people together, we can do the drawing. Again, thanks for letting me come out tonight to speak with you. Hope that gave you some good education, information. Okay, so you have a blue ticket, everyone got a blue ticket in? Okay, blue tickets. All right. All right, here we go. Gotta make sure everybody's got a chance. So it is a $70 value for this, per person, or per thing. And you can just let me know when whoever wins, I'll get your information, reach out to you, and then I'll give you a gift card, and you can pick when you wanna go and who you wanna take with you. Okay? But we have 12 different adventures to choose from there. We have things for kids as young as 4 years old, all the way up to 104. So it was a lot of fun, and we're fully accessible for anybody in a wheelchair, crutches, they're all flat, there's no steps whatsoever, it's all fun. Nothing like anywhere in St. Louis, so hope you guys get to come some point and see the Adventures of Intrigue. All right, here we go. Here's a blue, did you get one, sir? Yeah, this gentleman's got one right there. Get a chance, all right. If you don't win, you're still welcome to come see us. We're on Tuesdays to Saturday. I've got some cards, brochures I'll leave. I got some over on the table, little rack cards about that place, so you can make sure you grab one. All right. All right, so here we go. For the first 2-pack gift card is 3641682. All right, there we go. All right, congratulations. What's your name? Charles. All right, congratulations, Charles. Charles with the cash, he's got. All right, cool. All right. Actually drew 2 of them out, so I'm going to do 2 more drawings. All right, instead of just 2 total, I'll do 3. All right. So the next one is 3641654. Who's got 364? There we go, in the back. What's your name? Derek. All right, congratulations, Derek. All right, 2 tickets to Adventures of Intrigue. You can choose what adventure you want. There's like 12 different ones to choose from. You can choose when you want to come. It takes about an hour, but we don't kick you out if you don't get it done in an hour. We give you time to finish it too. All right, next one. The last one, 3641650. All right, is that Steve? All right, congratulations, Steve. All right, sir, that's cool. And you got my number, information. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if you have any questions at all. I don't charge for advice. Okay? All right? Thank you.
All right, I certainly learned a lot. I hope you all were taking notes. What was that device called, a hydrometer?
This one is a humidity temperature reader. You use one in the store, box stores, find them online too. You take humidity and temperature readings.
Nice.
Okay?
All right.